to level the church. You know, this side is on a hillside, and so this end was down on the ground, that end was hanging in the air. Because they didn't have the equipment to grade it out and make a basement and all. That was before. Well, they had a mule and what they call a scoop pan, which but you could do better with a shovel and a pick. But
So the guys would go, the women would go up one side, and the pulpit was way in the back.
You know, when it had that's just the way it was. And if you chose to sit in the middle, if you had your kids, you'd sit in the middle, you know, with your children.
But the women on one side and the men on the other.
Most of the men would take the boys and they'd sit on that side, and the women take the girls and they'd sit on that side. And when they got to be teenagers or the younger, they'd sit in the middle. But you didn't misbehave. If you did, they'd take you out and wear you out with a switch and bring you back in church, and they know what happened to you.
And who was the preacher when you were there?
Miss Kansas South. She was my primary.
No, preacher.
Oh, the preacher. Well, I remember. I guess DeWitt Fowler was the first one I remember. The first one, and then Roe Bagley, and he was another part-time preacher. You know what? Part-time, once a month or whatever. Then finally they voted in to have preaching every Sunday. Man, they thought, well, we don't need that kind of religion. That's just too much. So then after then it was different ones, and they'd call them back. They'd re-elect them for different time frames. You know, because most of the time they had to re-elect them every year. It wasn't no 4-year contract. And if you got dissatisfied with them, you stuck with them most time of year. So, but that's where the deacons played a part in it. You know, they helped to see after the church. The preacher didn't take care of it.
Was your dad a deacon?
Oh yeah, he was a deacon. I don't know how many years, but he was a deacon.
Yeah, I thought that's what Dad said.
You know, he was a deacon. And I'm not sure if Ray Setheth was or not. But I don't know who all was the deacons, because
Right.
that didn't bother me. I was a kid.
You were a kid, you didn't.
I didn't understand all that then. And I don't understand it all today either, so nothing new.
So what's the difference? I mean, back then when you went to church at Old Suwanee, I mean, I know obviously you rode horses to
Mules.
church.
Most of them
Mules.
had mules and wagons. And some of them had horses, but very few. Or you walked. Most of them walked.
You walked.
Because a lot less to get you ready and the horse ready and to go tie it out and all this kind of stuff.
That's
So
true. Did y'all cut through the woods and walk, or did you?
No,
There was no street.
Went down the road and walked.
Well, yeah,
So
but it was a dirt road.
You'd all cleaned up, so there wasn't no, you know, sometimes when they had the car to come by and get you all dusty, but there wasn't that many cars.
Huh.
They had
So
some,
y'all
but
went to church. What else do you remember about the church down there? Was the graveyard always?
it's always where it is now.
Well, obviously, yeah, they're not going
really,
to change it, but
But the church was on the side where it's sitting, going to the cemetery. And that's where you're going to have, and they were slaves buried there. But, you know, they just had up a rock for their headstone or something, there was no markings on them. And there was probably a lot of white folks did the same thing. There's a lot of old things, I know they've gone now. There used to be tin metal on the top of them. It looked like that, kind of like that island, but it wasn't hardly that tall, it was a little less. And it had a metal roof on it. I don't know who is under there, but I remember there'd be bushes grow around it, because, you know, you can have all these weed eaters and things like that, because we had to get out and hoe all the dirt off the cemetery. That was a chore that you had to do. Like keep your yard. We didn't have no grass in the yard. You hoed it all out.
y'all had to as church members, or
No, it's the people, the cemetery, you clean the cemetery. Everybody go out and clean their plot or their relatives and hoe the dirt off, hoe all the grass off of it, because it was down to the dirt.
So everybody came
Well,
one
the that
Sunday,
you could
Saturday.
Get to come, let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
And they would come and they'd clean the cemetery.
Well, they'd clean the grass around the graves and keep the weeds and the bushes and whatever cut out, because you leave it alone, it's going to grow up with something. And most times it's grass, then you get the bushes, and then they had the bathroom over in the woods, the women's and the men's up in another wood. We went to the bathroom. Didn't have no indoor plumbing. Didn't have no indoor running water. You had a bucket of water for the preacher and a glass to put his, you know, to drink out of, and a bucket of water.
So tell me about, tell me about when you got baptized. You and Jean and all your family were baptized in the creek, right?
Well,
Where were you baptized? At Old Suwanee.
She was baptized over there in the branch over there where Old Suwanee Road and Beaufort Highway meet. There's a branch there, and the Settlers had built a little concrete area, and that's where they had to baptize, because we'd dam up the branch, and that's where they used to is a baptizing pool.
Huh. And where were you
I was
baptized?
baptized over where the Presbyterian church is. I had a McNeil, what do they call it, a fish pond, he had a little bunch of cabins over there. They called it then the McNeil Motor Court. I mean, this was big time in the 40s. And so I was baptized in that little, they call it a fish pond there. And Randall was the same time. He was baptized there, and Eugene Green, and there was about 13 of us baptized at
I
time.
remember that picture with you and Randall holding hands.
Yeah. So this is at that time, but they just dam up the branch, and most of them we call them wash holes because what swimming pools was. We never heard of that term.
So y'all would dam it up and then go down there and get
They'd use
and
it
get
They'd
baptized.
use it to baptize, And
So the whole church
have
y'all
well,
wouldn't show up
they-
at church that Sunday to baptize. You
Yeah,
would
they'd
all
have
meet
it.
at the hole.
They'd have the church, you'd have them baptized, and you'd go over, and they'd usually have a preaching after the baptizing, or first it was a church service, a church function. And so then you'd be asked to join the church or what have you. I mean, that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter of submission. You go into water as an old man, you come up as a new born again person. That way. That's the symbol of it. It's like the Methodist sprinkle your whatever other form they want to use.
Right.
But it's going back to when John baptized Jesus in the River of Jordan. I mean, that's exactly where they get the baptism from, and that's just traditions of customs or what have you.
Now Jean told me that she's been to a foot washing.
Yeah, they used to have that.
They used to have foot
And
washings.
confessions and different things. I mean, if you was caught doing things, because they could dismember you from the church if you did wrong, and you didn't get up and make acknowledgments to the whole church. It's what you did. They had an authority to dismiss you, and they would. If you caught
Because Grady went folk dancing or something.
If you was caught stealing chickens or stealing somebody else's goods, they'd call you before the church and give an account of what took place.
Right.
They didn't have no courts. I mean, you had your own.
Well, you still do that at Old Suwanee. You still have to
They-
stand up and
you
tell your
still had your
sins.
own rules. You governed yourself, and I know that can be good and it can be bad, but it's like the main thing is trying to be just as best as anybody can.
Right.
And you had a chance to say what you wanted to say. And if you didn't say it's your opportunity.
Right. So they had foot
Yeah.
washings.
Well, this is
And they
a
had-
symbol of, when in the Bible where Jesus washed the feet of the disciples.
Right.
And
But I remember Jean telling me that was kind of
Well,
different to
this is
have a foot
something that
washing,
they-
especially with pantyhose on.
They got, but it's a form of humbling yourself.
Right. What else has changed from Old Suwanee? I mean, what do you remember most about going to church
I guess.
back when when you were
You didn't
born
you
and
wasn't-
baby?
You didn't take it for granted you wasn't going to church because you were going to church,
Exactly.
and there wasn't no ifs and ands about it.
But y'all went.
We went every time. You went
You went
in the
every.
morning,
They didn't
we went-
have.
went in the evening. We had a night service. You went at night too. So you didn't skip any meal. You didn't skip any. And
Church
most of the time,
service.
it's a courtesy. Some member of the church would invite the preacher home for dinner and his family, and they go back at night, and they fed them supper, and they went home after this evening service. And Mother did that I don't know how many times because it's a voluntary thing.
Exactly.
And some never did invite the preacher, or his family, and so you become friends as well as you study the Bible too, or ask questions or whatever you want to do, or get their opinion. It's how you interpret it.
So, do you remember when Preacher Moore came?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
You remember that? I bet that was.
Yeah,
let's
this
see.
is. I'm not sure if I was still. We were still at Beaufort or not, but after he came, we came back to Old Suwanee and joined the church. I think he came while we were still members in First Baptist at Beaufort.
Mm-hmm.
But there again, we didn't care for that because I was born in the country, sure enough country, and Jean was kind of a city girl. So, but she enjoyed.
Yeah, she loved it. She taught Sunday school down
Yeah,
there, and
she enjoyed the church,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and it's like a leader of anything. It's who the leaders are.
True.
If you don't have a good leader, you can have a rough, rocky road. And I'm not saying it at all. You got to have followers as well as leaders, and you got to have people to help everybody pitch in.
Well, I'll say Preacher Campbell has kept it humble.
Oh, he did.
He's kept it very humble.
And he tried to live what he preached.
Mm-hmm. He's tried his best to keep it the way it is. Mm-hmm. He's doing a good job
And
keeping
that's what
it.
everybody else, members supposed to do the same thing. It's not a 1 day, 1 hour a week, or one day, it's a 24/7. And if you went to your friend's house, oh, we're glad to go to church, but didn't have to work that day.
That's 2 hours away from being on the farm.
Oh, yes, yes, but you still had your chores to do, you had to still do those, but you had a few hours to go play with your friends, or they could come play at your house, but yours, whatever, the parents are in charge of them, whatever, if you got a switching, he got a switching too. I mean, if he was visiting, so you didn't get out of misbehaving, and so this was the good thing. And it's not like, hey, I'm escaped, I can do what I want to do. That was the furthest thing from it.
Right. I know, because Dale tells us about how he used to have to wake up early. Y'all drop him off, go to work, and he'd still have to work the farm before he even went to school.
Yeah. Well, as a kid, we'd have to draw the water on, especially on the Monday, the wash day. You got to get out and draw 3 wash tubs, plus a wash pot full of water. So you're looking at about 15 to 20 buckets of water, plus build a fire to get the wash pot water going before you left to go to school. And that was Carl and my job, or whatever. Mostly Carl's. He was older, but I'd have to get the wood ready, and Mother did the washing while we were at school, and it was. And then we'd finish up when we got back, because it was, 5 kids. You got a bunch of dirty clothes.
Yeah.
And we didn't have we had a well, but didn't have running water. I remember when we got the first pump in. First got the first bathroom in 1950. 49 or 50, somewhere in November, I think of 49. And then in 51, we went out to see, I guess it's November of Thanksgiving of 1950, when I see my older sister lived in Louisiana. So Boyd and Evermay was coming to take care of the cows and the mules and the pigs, and because somebody had to feed them, while we were gone. And we came back, and it was nice and warm in Louisiana. Got to Birmingham, Alabama, just turning cold. It's 5 above 0. We was out in summer clothes, short sleeves, and we like to froze our buns off.
Oh, I bet.
Got back, the commode was sitting about that high on an icicle in the bathroom, which had frozen. One of the coldest Novembers we'd ever had of Thanksgiving. So I had to do the plumbing all over again, since it busted the pipes, but it's something that could be fixed. Thank goodness
Right.
it didn't burst the commode, but it pushed it up on an icicle, and it was strange things happened. So back then we didn't have no frozen pipes, because you didn't have any pipes.
Right. You just had the outhouse.
Outhouse.
Right.
You didn't make any unnecessary trips on the night unless you had business to do.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them, had what they call slop jars, or a chamber you could, use to, number 1 in, or number 2 if you had to, and then you take it and throw it, carry it outside and wash it out and get the smell out of the house or whatever. And I remember Mother take a newspaper, to get the odor out of the house, sometimes that was just a way of helping eliminate it.
Well, yeah, with 3 boys, you would have to.
Well,